that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Rain and storms continue into the overnight hours with a low of 61. Then Tuesday, sunshine with a high of 76. Grab a tray at Cafe Latte and pick from their award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and desserts. Cafe Latte is at Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul or at cafelatte.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope that you had a fantastic weekend. It was a little stormy, wasn't it? Just a little bit. Nothing in my area, at least, that was too horrible. But we certainly had a very rainy day today, didn't we? I guess I need to pay closer attention to the forecast because I had no idea that was coming. I know that, especially summer, we don't want to have rainy days, stuff like that. But I'll tell you, waking up in the morning and having it be like kind of that grayish out and like thunder and lightning, there's something kind of nice about that. I don't mind that once in a while, right? That's not too terribly bad. Just once in a great while we can do that. It's kind of the weather that I think our author tonight would probably want to put into one of his stories. That would probably end up having people get killed in his stories or something like that. Play a big part in that. I'm really excited to welcome back author Joe Prosit. Joe has been on the program a couple of times, and one of the reasons why we like him back is because he's a great author. He loves what he's doing. He's having a great time with it all, and he's just writing and writing and writing. And the last time we had him on, we talked about the cyberpunk sci-fi trilogy from Order. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, only one of the 3 books were ready to go or available at that time. That was 99 Town. Since then, there is the book 2, which is 7 Androids, and the third one is Zero City. And then he's just come out with a new book that is called Look What You Made Me Do. It's a psychological slasher horror novel. So what's not to love there? And I'm guessing perhaps a thunderstorm or two might have played a part in that as well. Joe, welcome back to GhostBox Radio. How are you doing tonight?
Greg, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Always fun to be here. I'm glad
that you're here. I'm trying to. My memory's a little foggy. I think because we've had you on a couple times. One of the times, though, I want to say that only one of the trilogy books was available at that point. Am I like losing it, or am I somewhat right there?
A little bit. I released all 3 at once, so they're all.
Whatever, Joe. Don't argue with me. No, it's okay. I just
off on a bad foot.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Whoops, we lost connection with Joe. No, it's one of the things I do remember was that you were doing a you were doing like a celebration party or something over at the Lookout in Maple Grove. I do remember. I think I got that part right.
Yeah, you got it.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, you
Yeah,
got to get something right once in a while, right?
yeah, that was a really fun event. Had a whole bunch of family and friends, and then just local, kind of the regular barflies and other people who just happened to stroll on in and kind of scratch their head for a little bit and said, "What's going on here?" So
What's happening? Yeah. No, it's really interesting, and I know I was really hoping to be able to come out for that, and I think I'm trying to remember I had something else going on, like it just was one of those conflicts, which was really unfortunate. But otherwise, I really wanted to go out there. It might have been this show. This show might have been the conflict. I don't know.
might have been that. Yeah.
Now,
I
now
do
I just
remember you recommended the chicken dinner, and I had the chicken dinner there at the Outlook, and you were right. It's fantastic.
it's broasted.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know
Mm,
what broasted means. It's similar to fried. It's baked. I don't know. I don't care. I just know every time I have roasted chicken, I love it.
It's yeah, there's something really delicious about it. So wanted to bring you back. I saw that you had published your most recent book, Look What You Made Me Do, a psychological slasher horror novel. Did that just get a release?
Yeah, that came out this past December, so
Oh,
it is my most recent.
good
And
grief. I thought it was like a week ago or something. I'm just really so far so good, huh, Joe? Is I really keep up with what you're doing. I'm
I'm hard
stellar
to
about
keep up with.
yeah.
I like to keep people on their toes.
So it came out in December of 2015. No, I'm just kidding. But so why don't we talk a little bit about what this book is? Because I mean, just judging by the cover itself, I like the look of it. It's a young woman that has an axe. Does she have an axe to grind? And I'd like to know more about this, and so would everyone else.
Yeah, so this book is pretty much my love letter to every 70s, 80s, 90s horror slasher movie, everything from Texas Chainsaw Massacre to Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play, Scream, all those movies, right?
Right.
Um, but the real inspiration, um, my one of my like guilty pleasures, and don't even feel guilty about it, but one of my guilty pleasure horror movies is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2,
Oh.
right? And
Two
and
or also is
the
number
second
two?
one, part
The
two.
second one.
Yep, yep.
Okay. All right. All right.
So if you remember, it's got the whole family in there. Chop Top, played by Bill Moseley, with
Yeah.
a metal plate exposed, and
Yeah.
um, it's over the top. It's over the top. It's campy. It's wild. It's bizarre. Um, but it ends somewhat similar to one, right? There's one girl left alive.
Hmm.
All her friends have been killed. Um, but in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, she beats all the bad guys and she ends up with Leatherface's chainsaw. In the closing shot is her on top of this sort of fiberglass mountain that's supposed to be like the Alamo land. And she's kind of doing Leatherface's dance with that chainsaw, like we saw him at the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 1.
Sure.
And she had clearly been driven absolutely insane. And I'm watching this for, probably the 200th time. And I thought, I want to know what happens now. Like, never mind the whole movie I just watched. I want to see a sequel to this movie that starts right now, right? Like,
Hmm.
this woman has clearly been, through hell. And what's the rest of her life like?
Yeah.
So that was kind of my initial inspiration for Look What You Made Me Do. And the first chapter is a scene similar to all those final girl last scenes in all these horror movies of, you know, her surviving this massacre, seeing all her friends killed before her, finally beating the bad guy, and the cops and the ambulance and the news crews start showing up. And it's right then that we jump ahead 20 years and catch back up with her when she's 37 years old, an adult trying to do adult things.
Hmm.
She's paying her bills and trying to show up at work on time. But because she has all this trauma in her past, she's kind of a train wreck, and she drinks too much and drives too fast, and her love life is in shambles, and she's getting in trouble at work. And then on top of that, that killer from her youth starts creeping back into her life again.
So when you watched the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, and she's doing that at the end, was that taken at the time for you as that she was all right in the head and that she was just excited and she kind of unknowingly mimics Leatherface, or did you ever think that she actually kind of took on that sort of persona of like, well, maybe I do this sort of thing now?
Total stable genius there. No, like as you watch the movie, it's really the whole, at least the second half, you slowly watch this woman being driven insane.
Right.
Um, and it really, sure, she beats the bad guys, right? She removes the threat and she's there by herself at the end and she survives. Um, which is really like short view of what's happened to her, right?
Hmm.
Because granted, this is like a campy, silly, fictional series of events. Um, but we kind of know from real life that after people survive some traumatic events like that, the story's not over.
No. No, it isn't. And I just always found that interesting, only because, like, I think of too, like Mark Hamill. He wanted the end of Return of the Jedi to be that after Vader dies, he takes Vader's helmet and he puts it on his head, and he says, "Now I'm Vader." Is that sort of like thing of like that's very Cisse, but to that point of like what is it that happens when you get to that, and I don't know if it was Cisse for the film or not, but for you, and I see where you're taking it. I like the idea of really exploring how messed up someone can get, because it's weird when you watch some of these slasher films that might have continuity between them, like say like Jamie Lee Curtis or something like that in Halloween, until much later, I should add,
Right.
where
Yeah.
you don't really always get that there is some sort of like trauma that's attached to it, that either they hide it very well or it's this kind of glossed over. I think that almost is as interesting as the how you start killing people in your book.
Yeah, I have seen other series, particularly Halloween and Scream, where they kind of do have that follow up of like, oh yeah, she's gone through this stuff and now she has to deal with it. But it's always come off to me as something a little bit swept under the rug.
Yeah.
Oh, she has these issues, and then the big problem comes, and now she's able to overcome and go on with her life. And I just wanted to dig into it and spend a lot more time um, in that mind frame and kind of show that it's not so easily cast aside, I suppose.
I think that's fantastic. A couple things in the comments here. Russ says that if you look at the Saw movie, Shawnee Smith took her Tobin Bell role as Jigsaw because of the psychological influence. Damien, remind me, are you out in? You have to remind me where you are, because you're in a very different time zone than the rest of us. 4 a.m. Nothing better than listening to a horror while you nod off. I couldn't agree more. And just like Joe's books, you might get a little insane towards the end of the show. Damien's in Scotland, Edinburgh. I've been there. It's fantastic. He asked the question, what made you choose this title? Did you have an idea in your head, or did you start page one and it wrote itself?
Um, so I'll start with the title question because there's a fun story behind it.
Yeah.
And some people might have guessed already that it's borrowed. But because this main character is a woman, and I wanted to portray her in the best way I possibly could. Um, Before I really got to page one, and I had everything kind of plotted out and all these different, Act One, Act Two, Act Three scene breakdowns and all this, I brought in my daughter, who was I think 17 at the time, and I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. I want your input. What do you think? Does this sound authentic? Does it sound good?" And she gave me some good feedback, and we chatted about it for a while, and and that was all great. And I said, "Wow, that's awesome, thanks. The only thing I'm missing now is a title." And she says to me, "Well, a lot of fan fiction, what they do is they just name their fan fiction stories after Taylor Swift songs." And as soon as she said that, Look What You Made Me Do popped into my head. And I said, that is perfect. I'm going with it. And it was a working title for a while. And when I kept closer to publishing, I started like, am I going to use this? And I searched for anything better. I'm like, no, that's the name of the book. That's absolutely nailed it home.
I love that. I love that. Now, of course, her boyfriend Kelsey might come after you. But
Right, right.
you could take him. I've seen you in person. You can do it.
Yeah, sure. I might be more afraid of her lawyers.
No kidding, right? And then, and we'll get more into, the other question that Damien had was, did you have an idea in your head, or did you start page one and wrote itself? I want to get more into that as we get further into it, because we're coming up against a break here, and I want to I want to make sure that we take the time to really delve into it, because it is a very I have to imagine that there's a lot of interesting things that are going on when writing this. One of them is just the pure pleasure of writing kind of a slasher book, right? Taking that genre and putting your own personal identification to it.
Yeah, for sure. And I always like with this book, there's certainly plenty of like blood and gore. But that's better suited to the visual medium of movies and TV. And as a prose fiction writer, I really enjoy much more of the fear that's inside of the characters' heads and the thoughts that are going on inside of their heads, and that evoking that visceral reaction rather than just fountains of blood spraying everywhere.
Absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit more about that before we head off to break. And I hope everyone sticks around, because this is such a great conversation. But once again, the book is called Look What You Made Me Do. You can order it off of Joe's website, joeprosit.com. That's PROSIT.com. And from there, do you offer like putting your, autographing it and stuff, or what's going on over there?
So the link through the website, the link you'll stumble across first is going to bring you to either Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com, where you'll have to buy it, for shelf price and plus shipping. I do offer signed signatures through the website for a $5 markup, so because then I have to ship it.
Yep.
But honestly, the best way, cheapest way to get my signature on a book is to come out and find me. And I got a whole bunch of events coming up all over the Midwest.
Well, I mean, another option too, which I don't see you mentioning, is that we could just give your address out on the air right now, and people could just come over whenever they want.
Oh yeah, stop on by. We'll have a beer.
Oh, we're gonna have a beer. And okay, I'll get a book. That's not a problem at all. Why don't we go ahead? Let's do this. Let's take a first break. When we come back, obviously we're going to be talking more about the writing of Joe's book, Look What You Made Me Do, plus your questions. What a great conversation. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
We know you value buying local, especially when it comes to your magical supplies. So if you're looking for grimoires, decks, jewelry, candles, or herbs that are locally sourced, then come on down to Magus Books and Herbs. Curated for your ritual, ceremonial, spiritual, and spellwork needs, we've got all the tools to make your working extra. So make that prosperity ritual one that keeps on giving by visiting us at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis, or visit us online at magusbooks.com.
What you wear is important. It should be fun, creative, and expressive of your own personality. At Grady Gear Company, we believe that clothing is more than just fabric and threads. It's a form of self-expression and a way to stand out from the crowd. Grady Gear is more than just a clothing brand. We're a community. We're here to inspire and motivate you to embrace your true self. We are a locally owned small business who do custom clothing orders too. Find us at GradyGearCompany.com. And welcome back to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you for joining us on this sort of rainy Monday evening. A perfect time to take a slasher book and read it and get scared before you go off to bed tonight. A couple things real fast. Russ says that Annabelle just moved behind me. I wish. I really wish, actually. That would be amazing. Russ also says, karma is the man coming through the door with a knife. It's kind of like when you have like a bat and on it says it's called the solution. You know, it's very, very similar sort of thing here. We have with us author Joe Prosit. We are talking about his new book that came out in December, not a week ago like I thought, psychological slasher horror novel called Look What You Made Me Do, a psychological slasher horror novel that you are kind of, I mean, what sort of sick human being are you to start writing about how people die in literature? Is it very expressive? Is it very detailed, or is it just like, oh, a knife went into somebody and they were choking in their own blood and, you know, left it there? Or are you kind of getting into like Stephen King territory and other territories where we're hearing all sorts of, you know, we're getting very, very descriptive accounts on what's happening?
Yeah, I won't be so arrogant to say that I'm on par with Stephen King, but I have fun. And you know, I've doing through this. I've met a lot of horror fans, and it's really cool to get such a wide sample size of all the different people. You know, because me and my friends, and you know, we're horror fans, and we'll watch movies together and things like that. But to kind of go outside of your friend group and hear from so many different people what they enjoy about it is pretty cool as well. And yeah, it's a very inclusive group. I've realized, like you might think like, oh, this is a genre for men, which is not the case at all.
Yeah.
And I met another writer when I was in Pennsylvania, and she wrote a book called The Final Girl Redux, and it's all about that final girl trope of, like, you know, the last one left alive at the end of all these horror movies, and sort of women's place in horror. It's the author's name is Kim Pinzon, by the way.
Okay.
Great book, but really she talked a lot about, like, is the genre itself misogynistic? Is it exclusive to women? And her conclusion is, like, really horror is more of a women's genre than any other genre, because, like, what other genre do you have lead protagonists that are almost always women?
It's really interesting because, you know, I guess, and maybe people listening to me tonight might be like, how did you not see this? But it's like, you're right. I mean, it's like one of those things that you just, especially growing up in the 80s, right? And you're watching this stuff and it's just like, that's just what it is. It's like, it's always a female and there's always one left. And it's always like the idea, because it's not so much about the fact that she survived at the end. It's more, to me, sometimes now thinking about it, it's more like that she has been treated as the weakest throughout, thinking that she is weak. And it's like, that's the starting point. And it's like, whether or not you're getting to the point of like showing that showing that she was stronger than what people gave her credit for. Is the fact that, or her, her murderer is trying to give her credit for. At the end of the day, we're all looking at this person as weak to start with.
Yeah, in watching like the typical, whether it's Friday the 13th or whatever it is, you get to watch, we'll say Jason Voorhees, for example. We get to watch him kind of slice his way through all the other people who might be a legitimate threat to him, right? Like usually it's the comedic relief that goes first, but inevitably we'll get to like the big tough guy Jock, and always like that guy's never up to snuff, right?
Yeah.
And it usually boils down to, the smart one, the one who's maybe more cautious or who sees things that other people aren't seeing, and she's not being believed, but she has kind of that maybe sort of insider information or that wisdom that nobody else wants to embrace, and a lack of arrogance that is everyone else's downfall.
It's so true. It's so true. And I think and I don't know how old you are. I'm assuming you're younger than I am, but I mean, I just remember back in the like 96, the Scream films, and how that was such, I mean, it was so easy to turn those tropes, and turn our expectations, because we go into a film like that and we are just like, we know how this is going to be, but it looks cool. And then to find out we're being, outplotted almost every step of the way. But you can almost, with those films, sometimes it feels like you can only do that so many times because it becomes a genre within itself.
Yeah. Well, I've talked before. I love writing in genre, whether it's science fiction or horror or even fantasy, because there's all these tropes, there's all these things that have been done before, and you just get to add on to that conversation, right?
Yes.
And that's what Scream did. Like you couldn't have Scream without Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and
True.
Halloween, right? And that was my intention to do with this book, is to add on to that conversation, and obviously be aware that like Scream has kind of codified these tropes, right? And now everybody's aware of them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what's left to be done? What more can be done, and what new angles can we go? And and that's what I love about genre fiction.
Well, and I would assume too that there's certain things that we might be like, that's a trope that's tired and we've seen a lot of times, but in some way it's like, I would assume as a content creator of some kind, being a writer or whatever, or even like a director, a video, makes videos, whatever, there's certain things you want to be able to do because you've seen it so many times that it's like, it might just be one small thing, but I want to make it because I've seen it and I want to have my chance to do that, whatever that is.
Right, and pay homage to all those things that came before. And that's one thing I was able to do, and for plot reasons that I won't get into, for spoiler reasons, I was able to weave in like all these, call it Easter eggs or references, callbacks, homages to basically every horror movie that I've ever watched and fallen in love with, from Cabinet of Dr. Caligari to Scream to Friday the 13th, and even to more modern movies like Get Out. And really take in the whole library of what's come before me, and to include like written fiction as well, like Stephen King and all those other ones, and have fun with it and play in that sandbox that those others have created for me.
I love it. I absolutely love it. We are talking with author Joe Prosit, and you can find out more about him at joeprosit.com. We are talking about his latest book, Look What You Made Me Do. It's a psychological slasher horror novel available through Amazon. Joe is a very gifted writer. We go to the comments section. Damien has a question for you. He says, how many times do you have to edit yourself and think even for you it's too far, or do you not have gore limits? I think the question Damien's asking is, are you truly a monster? No.
Okay, so I got to tell a story. I was out at a farmer's market, and it's kind of not my crowd of people. I mean, it is, but it isn't, right? It's not specifically on brand, I'll say, right? And I had this nice put together woman who came up to me, and she kind of takes one glance at all the books on my table and says, "These books look evil." And I kind of was set back for a minute, and I said, "Well, I do write horror, but if you ask me, horror is about looking evil in the face and standing up to it."
Yeah.
And then she kind of said something dismissive and stuck her nose up in the air and sauntered on by, which is fine. I know I'm not for everybody, but
it's funny. Well, it's there's a couple things funny about that. First of all, that you are, you have freshly grown watermelon, then we have the horror author, and then we have farm fresh eggs, all in the line. So I mean, I think that's good, but isn't that the truth though? And I run into that with the stuff that I do as well, especially depending on what kind of religious organizations I might run into if I want to investigate a place. And I was just talking with somebody about this today, actually, about how you just go in, even like there's some beautiful churches in Minnesota, there's beautiful churches in Minneapolis. I just want to, I'm a big fan of architecture. Can I come in and take a look at this? And someone will look me up, like the priest that's there will look me up just as kind of a background check. And he's like, no, you do evil things. And it's like, I don't. and even, regardless what you call it, I don't want to even do that sort of thing there. I just want to come in. I just want to check it out. It's really, it's fascinating, but you got to think, for you, that's a compliment in a sense, right? That they're seeing it, they're seeing what it is, and those covers are working, and they're not evil covers. They're covers that really express what does what a cover should do, makes you want to read about what's in the book.
well, and like I said, I'm not for everybody, and I'm okay with that. So
Yeah.
I don't. It doesn't hurt my feelings, that somebody says, "Oh, those books aren't for me." So yeah, you're probably right. But
Right.
but I guess it did stick with me because like I don't set out to be evil. Like I don't think I'm a monster, right? No
No.
matter how long I go on and on about, blood and guts or whatever. Um, to live life plainly and without conflict, it doesn't really make a statement, right? Like there's no story to somebody who, grows up and sells carpet and dies and nothing happens along the way, right? So yes, I do introduce terrible things in all my books, whether it's science fiction or, a summer beach read romance or a horror book. Bad things are going to happen, and then it's in our own lives too, right? Bad things are going to come our way, and it's all about how we react to them.
I think too, you just have how many, first of all, if people were this upset about gore and stuff, there wouldn't be a genre, right? There it would not be something that is so popular, and it is popular. Also, how many people, including that woman, I would bet anything, including that woman, that has met somebody in their lives, even just one, where they'd be like, boy, if I could like just throw that person into some sort of mulch grinder or something like that, throw them into a garbage disposal unit and just see what happens. I mean, come on, that is human nature to have, especially to the people who wronged you or that you are upset with. Even, I'm sorry, even like good friends, you might just have that moment of like, throw you down the stairs, or maybe that's just me. But it's you. There's a dark side to everyone. It doesn't mean we play out on it. Just because you write it doesn't mean you play out on it. But it's there for a reason. And I know that there's going to be people who read those things in your book, and they're going to be either cheering on because it's someone who deserves it, or they're going to get the emotion that you are trying to get out of them of it's a good character. It's sad to see them go. This is horrible, but now you're going to hate that person who did it even more.
There's definitely some scenes in this book, a good amount, where it's a cheer on moment, where we're in the head of the quote unquote bad guy. And because let's face it, yeah, when I was a kid and I'm watching Friday the 13th, I'm rooting for Jason, right?
Right.
There is something in that genre that's definitely like that. We're all rooting for the bad guy
Well, it's
in horror
especially
movies more often than not.
well, and especially the good, even with the good people, if they're just stupid, you're just like,
Right.
yeah, you know what, you deserve to, like there's a, like they're running and there's a car and they don't take the car, they go back into the woods, running, whatever. It's like, yeah, you know what, the planet will be better off without you. I am pretty sure about that. Before we go off to break here, Damien has a question, and Damien asks, I like this. Do you write your critics into your stories and kill them off as a type of self-control? I love that. That's fantastic.
I haven't done it yet. Pretty much everybody that I meet, and especially people with rememberable characters, or rememberable personalities, they'll find their way into my books, either in part or in whole, because I'm stealing from people all the time.
Well, that makes sense because, if why sit and really think hard about certain types of people when those type of people are often right in front of you? It's not even necessarily them, right? It's their personality that you're grabbing, right?
Yeah, I love big personalities. I love people with, quirky catch sayings and the people who they feel like they stepped out of a movie into that, shopping mall or conference room or wherever you're at.
When you think about something like, first of all, Look What You Made Me Do, because Linda Judd has a question. She's wondering, because I think she probably came just a couple minutes late here, is your story mystery or suspense? The book itself is a psychological slasher horror novel. But I mean, I would assume just by the type of story you're doing, it's both a mystery and a suspense, right?
If you take movies like Shutter Island, where you're constantly asking yourself, what's really going on? Is this what is the narrator telling me? Is that actually true? Or am I looking at this world through a skewed vision? So that's why I kind of have that really long, subgenre classification of psychological slasher horror. Is yes, in part it's Friday the 13th, and other parts it's Shutter Island, where you just don't understand what's going on and you're figuring out. So that initial setup of okay, let's catch up with the final girl after she's survived and is trying to live her life out now. Really just the setup, and then there's a lot of twists and turns, and I have a lot of fun following that.
Oh, that's cool. I hope everyone sticks around here because we're going to take a break here. When we come back, there's a lot more we can discuss with author Joe Prosit about his books, and we can talk about other books as well. Anyone have anything in the comments? Go ahead, put them in there, ask questions. We're going to break right now. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. Recently, I had a large order of custom-designed t-shirts that needed to be turned around in a hurry. I knew exactly who to call. Grady Gear Company. Grady Gear Company is a local company that handles large and small custom clothing and apparel orders. I had a lot of questions from color, shirt quality, and what sizes we needed. Grady Gear Company was great to work with. They got us what we needed on time, and now everybody's looking great around the station in their new gear. Start your order at GradyGearCo.com.
Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
Reach your highest level of consciousness and well-being with metamorphosisconnections.com. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search metamorphosisconnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on metamorphosisconnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting metamorphosisconnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's metamorphosisconnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. It's going to be a Just Greg episode. What that means, it's just what it says. It's just Greg. It's just me. We're going to be talking tomorrow about just general paranormal chat. Anything on your mind, anything you want to talk about. We'll just go through the comments. Otherwise, you'll hear me talk for a great period of time, which I like. I don't know if everyone else likes, but that's what we do. These seem to be a lot of fun. So I hope that you'll join us. Just whatever's on your mind, whatever questions you have. Otherwise, I'll just go through some of the stuff that we've been working on and some of the stories that we've experienced, and that'll be tomorrow. And then I just want to remind folks, this Wednesday, we're going to have on Psychic Medium Refined Divine for one-question readings. Those are always a lot of fun. She's going to stop by. We're going to take phone calls. We'll do comments. It's one-question reading. What I love about Deb doing it is that she will also channel people who have passed. And that's, I don't get everyone when we were doing other psychics on the air. We generally don't get people who channel, mainly because some psychics need a little bit more setup than Deb does. But Deb has been fantastic. It's been so much fun to have her on. So check out tomorrow, or Wednesday with Refined Divine. Tomorrow it's just me. But right now, it's not just me. I have with me author Joe Prosit, and we are talking about his most recent book, Look What You Made Me Do, a psychological slasher horror novel. Lots of good stuff here. In the comments, let's see here. Damien asked the question. Well, let me back up just even a little bit, because Linda had asked, is your story mystery or suspense? And we covered that. Linda then also says, that's why I asked, because psychological doesn't commit to one or the other. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to, in my opinion, but I'm not a writer. And I suppose those sort of things are really, you probably think, maybe you don't, but I would think if I were in that case, I'd be thinking over that stuff over and over. Like, how do you get the right verbiage to convey what your book is about?
Yeah, it's tricky because writing always comes first, and then marketing comes second, really. And that's what sometimes what genre is, by putting a label, whether it's mystery or suspense or psychological or whatever. A lot of times I'll write a book and I'll be like, what is this thing? What do I call this thing? And how do I sell it to anybody? Right. So yeah, I wouldn't call it a mystery. Certainly there's elements of suspense into it in it, but it's really really heavy on like slasher horror, right? Like certainly anybody can pick it up and read it, I think. But if you are a fan of the 80s horror movies, or 70s, 80s, 90s horror movies, you're going to enjoy it a lot more, because it's kind of constantly referring to like some of the tropes that we've talked about, and then also just certain like I said, certain Easter eggs and references throughout.
And I think that's good to know, and I think it's really exciting. I think it's and I don't want to call it. I mean, it's tough because it's a brand new original piece of literature. It's also a callback. It's an like you. I think you'd probably say more of an homage, I guess, in certain ways. But I mean, it's just fun to be able to find works like that to read. Damien asked the question: is it going to be available in audiobook form at all?
Working on it. It is not available now. I have plans to get all my books through audio. It's just an investment, and sometimes those investments don't pay back.
Well, and that's something that I don't think people truly understand here. You're self-published, right?
Correct. Yep.
So you're doing it all. You're doing everything yourself, and that includes that marketing piece, right?
That's right. I hire out my covers and I hire out some copy edits. But aside from that, I'm my own event planner. I'm my own marketer. I'm promoter. You name it.
Because Damien also asks, do you have a say on voice casters for the actors? And I would say, yes, you do.
Yeah. And I think the way I might go is I might read my own book, which would be a lot of work. But also, I do have one book that I've gone through getting it out on audio, and the voice actor, she did a great work. I love it. But there's always a little bit of some things lost in translation. So I might do it myself.
Well, and it's unless you know the person, unless you know the way that they read, it can be still a big gamble. They could, the tone, the shift in energy of a story changes. It can start off one way and it moves around to all sorts of different feels and stuff, and that has to be really hard to making sure you're finding the right person that conveys all that appropriately for your book.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
That's
and
tough.
Who knows? One day I might find the exact right person. Like I found a guy that does my covers, and I'm going with that guy from home. He does great work, so I'm super happy with it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Nancy says, at first I thought it was a take off of Dr. Eric Byrne, excuse me. I'll have to check this out. And for those who want to check this out, go to Amazon. You can get the books there, but you can also just find out more about Joe himself over at joeprosit.com, prosit.com. I did put the URL into the comment section for those who want to do so. Please do so, because here's the thing is, obviously, and every time you're on, I tend to say this because it's true. We got to do whatever we can to support good authors, especially when like you are living you're trying to make your dream come true. You are trying to do everything possible to you've put everything aside apart, from family. That's still there, obviously, but this is your job. This is what you're going to do. And, that should be rewarded. People should be able to get the books and should be able to support. And I hope that they do.
I mean, I have to thank the hundreds of people that have come out and regularly buy my books. And every once in a while, about once an event, usually when I'm signing a book, I'll kind of mentally take a half step back and kind of look at myself and say, wow, this is happening. I'm actually doing this.
Good.
And, sometimes I have, I kind of have both the left brain and the right brain, right? My creative side and is really enthusiastic and emotional. And then I kind of have this very calculating side that's very goal driven and, keep spreadsheets and things like that. And sometimes that side of the brain gets too much in charge. And I say, well, my goal was to sell 80 books this weekend and I'm only at 60. So I'm disappointed or I'm frustrated. And then that kind of other side of my brain takes that half step back as I'm signing another book for somebody else who's going to read this, who I've never met. They're going to take this book home. I think they're going to love it. And, and I hear back from people regularly that, how much they enjoy the books. And all those other things don't matter all of a sudden, and
absolutely.
Yep, I'm going to drive 8 hours home on a Sunday night and I'm going to wake up tired on a Monday morning. But it's all worth it.
It's all worth it. Now, what else do you have going on? What else is going on over there in for Joe?
Yeah. So my new book, I'll hold it up for the webcam. Machines, Monsters, and Maniacs Volume 2 It's a follow-up to Volume 1, short story collection with sci-fi, a little bit of horror, some ghost stories, some crime noir in there. I really like that mix of sci-fi and horror. I get, people mention Black Mirror a lot when they read my stories. So if you like that kind of vibe, or Tales from the Crypt, Nightmare, and Twilight Zone,
Sure.
that sort of vibe, that's kind of what's going on in there. That'll be out and available October 1st,
Wow. We're
just
gonna
in
get.
time for Halloween.
I think that would be really cool. It'd be great to get you back on and talk a little bit more about that when we're getting closer to it. That would be pretty cool. What else?
Absolutely.
What else?
Well, so the other thing I wanted to talk about is I'm a member of a group of writers called Lakes Area Writers Alliance, and essentially we're from the Brainerd Lakes area, or as as wide as people are willing to travel to come to the meetings. But every fall we have our annual fall conference. This fall it's on November 2nd at Drummond's Wine Company up here in Brainerd, and essentially we talk about everything. What it's like to be a writer and how we get started. And, in the conference, we'll really be talking about everything from the conception of an idea through the writing process and the editing process and through publishing and marketing all the way until you sell your first book. So, first sentence to first sale is kind of the theme of the conference.
That's cool. And it seems like a nice way for people who may have always had an interest in this but doesn't even know. But it's also good too for those of us who, I personally don't really have interest in writing a book, but I'm interested in the mechanics of doing so because it's such an interesting and it seems impossible. What you're doing seems impossible because there's so much to it. That I think those are really good ways and reasons to go and see and go to a conference like this because I would assume it's kind of like literally your baby, that you are nurturing it from the first sentence, like you said, to the first sale, this is everything that you put into it.
For sure. It's I don't know, it's always been my weird little obsession. So for me, like, the writing is the fun part for me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
figuring out how to pay sales tax in New York, that's the part where I want to, put a
Seriously,
hole through the wall.
I always thought that would be the most fun part. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Oh, well, what? I guess that's why I'm not a writer. I didn't know that's not fun. So Nancy, excuse me, Nancy just said anyone that works that hard to get themselves out there and does it all instead of expecting it just to happen has my total respect. And I know that there are people out there who are agreeing with her right now. And I think the best way anybody can agree with that is supporting. Give a book a try. Give one of Joe's books a try. Go to Amazon. Look up, we've been talking about Look What You Made Me Do. Go to Amazon and pick it up, read it. And, you'd love to know what they think, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Independent authors like me, we live and die on reviews, especially with online sales. So by all means, give it a shot. Leave a review on places like Amazon or Goodreads, wherever you buy your books online, right? And just tell your friends about them too. Like that's huge. Word of mouth is always the best.
It is, and it's more so than ever before because there's so many things out there that people read, and you don't even know if what you're reading is really from a person or if it's if it's just someone trying to do some kind of crappy marketing that you're being realizing that you're actually reading like a commercial or something instead of a review. And it's really important to get that out there. And obviously I wish you the best of luck. Are you appearing anywhere in the near future? You heading out and doing anything? You said you're going to take a little bit of time, aren't you?
Well, August, I got some couple weeks off where I'm not really traveling, but
Mm-hmm.
starting Labor Day weekend, I'll be at the Ho Chunk Casino, Wisconsin Dells. That's August 30th through September 1st. And then here in Plymouth, I'll be at Crypticon, September 13th through the 15th. And then QuadCon at the Marketplace Shopping Center, Champaign, Illinois, September 21st and 22nd. And then back here in Minnesota in St. Cloud, which is where I always sell the most books. I love St. Cloud.
Yep.
They always come out and kill it for me. So that's October 5th and 6th at Crossroads Mall. And that's actually the first time that Machines, Monsters, Maniacs Volume 2 will be available for sale. So it'll be a big weekend, October 5th and 6th.
And if you did not remember all that, which how dare you not remember everything he just said, you can go to joeprosit.com. He has that under about the author. If I have that in the right place, yeah, under author on his website, he kind of has his tour of where he's going to be if you want to see him in person as well. And yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be over at Crypticon because we were talking beforehand. We'll see if that works out. We did a live show there last year. Were you there at Crypticon last year?
So this will be my first time there.
Okay. So yeah, we'll definitely, if I'm going, we're going to have to meet up and have a drink or something. We keep talking about beers.
Absolutely.
It never seems to happen. So folks, go to joeprosit.com, go to Amazon and pick up his book, Look What You Made Me Do, a psychological slasher horror novel. Joe, thank you so very much for joining. What a great show.
Thank you, Greg. It's been awesome.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow. It's just me tomorrow. We're talking paranormal. Hope you join us. See you tomorrow.